I was saying that growing up, I didn't understand a lot about how the Holocaust went down, right? How could you have Jewish collaborators with the Nazis? Turncoats, or Jews who would snitch on others. And then the China virus thing happened. Then I saw it and I realized, these type of people, that's how it happened. I told you the story? Yeah. So there you go. I learned a lesson. Now, no one sent anybody to a concentration camp, but there are too many people who are too enthusiastic about, let's say, calling the police on their neighbors. Like some neighbors tried to do to me. For nothing I did. Like, well, we think this guy might have the corona. Stay away. Okay, fine. You should put people in quarantine. People have shown no signs of illness. Made no sense. And then this most recent surrender has showed me more about the idea of perfidy. What's perfidy? Perfidy is acting treacherously. There was a book written by Ben Hecht, I think in the early 60s, about the Kastner affair. What was Kastner affair about? The Jews of Hungary were in mortal danger. The Germans basically took over Hungary. That was the last place they conquered. Originally, Hungary was an ally of the Germans in World War II. But the Jews in Hungary were relatively safe for a while because they had not been Holocausted, because the Germans weren't actually in Hungary. You heard about this piece of history? This is where my grandfather comes from. And then the Germans, towards the end of the war in 1944, invaded Hungary. They took over their former ally. I don't know exactly, a better historian could tell you what exactly the meaning was this, but one of the things they did do was implement the final solution in Hungary. They quickly had to send Eichmann to organize Hungary into ghettos and start deporting as many Jews as possible to Auschwitz, which was the only remaining operative death camp at the time. That was part of the plan. It's the one that's farthest to west, closest to Germany. That's going to be the one that's going to stay operational after 1943. So a lot of Jews were deported to their death. And as this was going down, there was basically back-channel Machon, which would be negotiations to bribe certain Germans to allow Jews to escape Hungary. And sometimes there was accusations of certain people getting out and certain people not, if they had connections. And also who's going to give the bribe and who's going to decide. And do we alert the rest of Hungary's Jews to what was about to happen to them? Because there were rumors going around, but this is before the internet, and people couldn't be certain what was really going to happen to them. So there were Jews in Palestine and in post establishment of the state Israel who were accusing upper level Zionist operatives, people who eventually became part of the government and things like that, of hiding this fact from the Jews of Hungary and other perfidious deeds. And there was actually a trial in Israel against someone who was accused of libeling one of these accused. Okay, because he's saying Motzi Shemer about him, but the court found that it turns out what the guy was saying about this other fellow turns out to be true. Because look at that, he did terrible things, or he allowed many other Jews to die during World War II. So he wrote a book about this. There's a lot more to the story where maybe he was innocent, but the point was, I always had a question reading this in high school, because this is the type of thing, it's not a mainstream type of book. Who reads this type of book? Anti-Zionist cranks. The type of anti-Zionist Jews who were always, Rabbi Avi Miller types, and that fellow in the Five Towns, who are very much against, let's say, anything having to do with the state of Israel. Anybody on online land heard about any of these things? Okay. It's the Satmar type of cranks who would read this book. But I read the book also. Okay? It's a piece of history. Some say it's inaccurate history, whatever it is. The question I had is, how could Jews do this to each other? How could Jews betray other Jews? And now the events of last week have shown that, it happens. So whereas I don't know all the facts, and it's, whatever, the point is this plausible? That's what I was wondering. Is such a thing like this possible or plausible? And the answer is, of course it is. And that's what happened. So, if you want more on the situation, actually investigate this yourself, you're welcome to do so. I'm not commenting on the historicity of the matter or the truth of the matter. I'm just trying to say that if you're looking for evidence of Jewish treachery and traitorism and treason, look no further than the people who are currently running the show.
Rabbi,
okay. Yes, please.
I believe Merav Michaeli's grandfather was one of those people.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to say anything. I wasn't there, but yes, she's connected to it. So watch out. Let's see. So, uh, and there are some other things like, for example, is it plausible right now that the the bad guys in places like Gaza and in Jenin and in Hebron, every place where you have a large population uh, and an embedded terrorist organization, is it plausible that they're plotting the next massacre of Jews? More than plausible. No, actually, you know what? I think there was an operation in Jenin just last night. They know it's happening. How do we know it's actually happening? Because there are people who are saying, "Oh, I hear digging underneath my house." So the people who are up north and the people near Gaza, when they hear this, they tell them, "No, it's nothing. The Arabs aren't digging tunnels near you or anything like that. It's not nonsense." And it turns out that's all they do all day. They dig tunnels. Okay, and people said maybe they're plotting to do something terrible. So, it turns out they're actually plotting to do it. I'd actually show you a map right here if I had one by me. I'd say I would guess that the next big wave comes out of the places that you're aware of. Okay? So it's entirely plausible. Heck, they talk about it day and all night, and we've actually helped facilitate uh, their to what is it their recruitment numbers, and we've repatriated many of their soldiers on the ground, and we've allowed them to arm up, sometimes officially, sometimes unofficially, but we know that they're armed to the teeth. So, are they planning another Hebron massacre? Yes, that is completely plausible. If a Jew, I think every child sees this is the undisputable fact. Also, I think it's completely almost implausible that a Jew would commit cold-blooded murder. Jews don't do that. So I find it funny. A few years ago now, I discussed Rav Tzuriel's position regarding the Baruch Goldstein incident. What Rav Tzuriel wrote and what others did. And the friend contacted me and said, that's not the case. That he was, a Kahanist who actually committed murder. There was no basis for any of these things. It's all fake history. And I don't know how to tell him that. Maybe I don't know. I wasn't there. I was a 12-year-old at the time. However, what I do know is if you were to tell me that back then, perhaps the Ishmaelites of Hebron were plotting a major massacre of the local Jewish community, I'd say that that is certainly plausible. That is something that is well within the bounds of reason. And if you then tell me that a Jew would commit cold-blooded murder or just murder those who showed no threat to him, I would say that that's completely implausible because that doesn't happen. So this case, just on the percentages, just on the likelihood of it being true or not, okay, is certainly plausible. And the opposite, I find implausible. To tell me they weren't plotting anything, absolutely they weren't plotting anything, and that the Jew in question just committed murder is also implausible. So there you go. Do it with will. You just have to sometimes think about things.